You're listening to Life and Shyt. I'm Danielle Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal. Too relaxed.
Yes.
Well, welcome to Life and Shyt.
Right?
Where we're all just relaxed.
I'll take it. Yeah. We need that right now.
Yes. Raquel is relaxing with us.
Yes.
Welcome to another beautiful episode of Life and Shyt.
Yes.
I'm Tommy Walker.
Danielle.
Got my beautiful wife, Danielle.
Woo-hoo.
And we got a super dope guest in the building.
Yes.
Raquel Cohen. How are you doing?
Aw, I'm doing great, actually. It's really good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is an honor. You came all the way out here from miles and miles away. We know how San Diego is.
Yes, it's true.
You go from one part of San Diego to another part during this time frame. It's like, shit, that was an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, but you guys were the reason I got dressed today. Okay, right? So, yeah.
It's always nice to get dressed sometimes, you know?
Appreciate that. That is super dope. So we got a dope show. Raquel is going to talk to us about all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
You know, she is a 2-time author, working on number 3, almost 3rd-time author. We're going to get into that. She's also a crystal energy healer. We just learned a medium. We just like that wasn't nowhere.
No, it was.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. She has intuitive gifts. She's an energy worker
And a spiritual life coach.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into all of that, and we like to summarize it because it sounds better when you say it, because the people understand it. Like, damn, how can I get in contact with her? But it's super dope because we dabbled in all of those different areas. So we'll kind of give some of our experiences and all that too. And you was just talk about pre-show about a book that you picked up that you're dying to get into.
Definitely. And we always start our podcast out with a question. And it's in this particular title, I don't really want to, or subject, I'm not going to come all the way out the box, I guess. But I do have a question, and I think that a lot of people may perhaps not know a lot about this. Is forest bathing.
Ooh.
So I want to know.
You said a lot of people. There's one in the room. You said forest bathing?
Yes.
First time I've ever heard of it. All right.
Yeah. So I've recently been doing like lots of different research, especially when it comes to outside and grounding and things of that sort. And I love to bathe. Like, that's my thing. I could live in a bathtub. I'm a very fluid person.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I am. I literally could just soak my head under the water for a long time and be free. So forest bathing, I was like, wait, what?
Yes.
Where? The only place that I've heard. Okay, so anywho, before I get into all of that, how have you heard? You said no. Never heard.
No, yeah. Never. Is this literal bath in the forest? Is this we chilling in the grass and my mind says I'm in a bath?
Let's Raquel tell us.
Yeah. So forest bathing, in Japanese, it's known as Shinrin-yoku.
Ooh.
And that's where a lot of the research is coming out around forest bathing, is actually in South Korea, Japan, I think parts of Europe as well. But what they're doing is that they're actually taking people out into wooded areas and just letting them spend a few hours in the forest, breathing in the scents of the forest. And when they do that, they actually test their cortisol levels. They take saliva tests, urine tests, take some blood tests before they do their forest bathing and after. And the research is astounding in terms of how time spent in the forest affects humans on the nervous system level, on the immunity level, and just overall health and wellness. So it decreases cortisol, it decreases heart rate, it also increases the immunity. In fact, there's been some really cool research that's found that if you spend up to 2 hours in the forest, your body starts producing more of these natural white killer cells, which are like cancer killing cells. It produces more of them, and they're more powerful. They're like stronger.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that. I just thought it was amazing and you feel really, really good. But to know the science behind that's pretty cool. So and then to know that you don't actually have to bathe, because I'm not gonna lie, the things that I seen was like where is that? It's going up the coast of California. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they had
San Luis Obispo.
No.
Pismo?
No, it's the cliff. It's beautiful.
Big Sur.
Big Sur,
Yeah,
yes,
Big Sur.
yes.
Nepenthe, where they have like that bathtub.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So that's what I'm dying to go to. I'm like, okay, I got to get there. But that's like fancy. That must be fancy.
That's just the bathtub.
What's super cool about forest bathing is that you just need to be in the forest. And it doesn't even actually have to be the forest, honestly. You just need to be in some kind of wooded area. So even parts of like Balboa Park right here, if you go to an area where there's a lot of trees and other plants and you can smell the plants, you're going to have an impact, because so much of how the forest is creating these physiological impacts in our body is through the limbic system, is through us actually breathing in the phytochemicals, the chemicals that the plants give off. And the plants are giving off these chemicals because that's how they communicate with each other. Partly how they communicate with each other.
And the limbic center is how we deal with emotions.
Yes.
So that's
which is why smell takes us right back into memory.
See, that's pretty dope. Because I just spent some time in Moab. We just did a show where we talked about when I was in Moab, Utah, and we spent 24 hours camping off the grid.
Ooh, yeah.
And just the mindset, like you said. I mean, just the tranquility, the easiness, and then coming back from it, I feel like I could do anything. And then, every so often we would go camping. Like we spent at least a couple times a year, and then dialed it down to once a year. But we spent a lot of time. Now, you being, a surfer, how different is that from being on the ocean? And then, like, is there a fight between being in the ocean and being in the forest with you?
Well, what's funny is like the places that my heart is the happiest is where the forest meets the sea, which is probably why I love Hawaii so much. I was in Seattle a few weeks ago and for work, and I took a boat out to Whidbey Island, and I was walking around, and there's this area where the trees come right up to the water, and I'm like, my heart is so happy. But in terms of, surfing versus forest bathing, it acts differently on the nervous system. So much about forest bathing is kind of taking us out of that sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of more action oriented. And from a stress response, it'll be our fight or flight, into the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest, and which is really important for our immunity. When I'm surfing, I have these moments of parasympathetic where you're just like waiting for the next wave, and you're just like, and then the dolphins, right? But then when you're going for a wave, that's all sympathetic. I mean, straight up, like, go, get that wave, or get over it, right?
It's so funny. We were just talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. We were saying, I was telling you that in class when we were studying that the guys were talking about an orgasm and what was the difference between it, and everyone thought that it was sympathetic, that was the symptom, and it's like, no, it's not, guys. It's not. It's the para, because it's the relaxation.
Right.
But they just thought of the bang, bang, bang or something.
Well, I think it's different for women than men, to be honest. Because I think as women, we need to be able to be in the parasympathetic.
They got it wrong, because the test said that it was para. So
even for men?
It said period. That's just the way the body works. It wasn't like a separate thing. It wasn't like, women are. It was just the body is set up. Which system is this? Or which system handles this? So.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they all got it wrong. They're just like, I don't get it.
I never even thought about it like that. I mean, I know that when, like, as a woman, when you struggle sometimes to orgasm, we know it can be nervous system related.
But at the time of it, though, is when you have that. And that's how they got it. Because I was like, just think about it. It's like, it's a release, and then and they're like, oh. And that's para, right? It's just like that.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. That makes sense.
So it was fun.
That makes sense.
So we ask all of our guests certain questions, right? So everyone always wants to know, because, it's just a thing. Are you single and ready to mingle, or are you attached?
Can I be married and ready to mingle? No, just kidding.
Oh, you can.
These days, anything goes, right?
2023.
You can be whatever you like.
I am married.
Just as long as he knows.
Yeah, no. I am married. I am committed. Although we have had some conversations, because I think sometimes I know personally, like, as an adult, I've kind of recognized that I have more bisexual tendencies that I didn't really feel like I got a chance to explore. Now I'm like married with 2 kids, and it was just like a conversation I had. And nothing's gone anywhere with it, but it's just like a conversation, right? Because I do think we're in a world now where we can be more open. And I don't know if you guys are into astrology. I am.
I am as well.
I am a Cancer sun, Cancer rising. Like, you're Cancer. Okay, water, girl, water. Yes.
But it should have been picked up early.
You're also probably super intuitive.
Super.
Very.
Yes, which is why you love the water too. Yes, we can talk more about that. But as a Cancer, like loyalty is like huge,
Everything.
right? Like sometimes even to my own detriment, where like I really should just let that relationship go, and I'm like, I don't know how because I'm a Cancer. But I've also
My life.
Yeah, totally. But I've also had this weird knowing my whole life that like I don't think that humans are necessarily designed for monogamy. I think some of that is a construct that's been forced upon us very much by dogma and by control.
Yes.
Yep.
So that being said, I'm in a great relationship. I like loyalty. I don't know if I could handle like dating a bunch of people. That just sounds exhausting, to be honest. I got 2 young kids. I'm running a business. I write books. I don't got the
Don't have the
time.
capacity
Trying
for
to
it.
get to know you and all
But
this.
that being said, like there's something about that like initial attraction and dating that
Yeah.
sometimes I think when you're in a committed relationship with someone, like maybe it's good to explore that a little just to kind of bring some more spark.
Bring some
and
fire back.
Fire
Yeah.
back. So
I
and
like that.
I learn everything from nature. Like I was raised in a really religious environment. I'm not religious. If any kind of religion I have, it's ecology, it's nature. And when you look at the animals most closely related to humans, or even the way that we raise children, they are not monogamous.
This is true.
The animals that are monogamous are birds.
That's it. Yep.
It's birds.
I didn't know that.
It's funny you say that because we've had a conversation about this, and we tried to go back as far as we can when we studied and did a whole episode, and it was when agriculture started.
Yeah.
It was like that's pretty much when it was like, this is who you're with for the rest of your life, and it was only because of we had to farm and grow our own stuff, and after that was it.
Oh, and it's funny too because we just had a conversation last night about us being spirits having this human experience,
Totally.
right? And how in this human experience in this flesh, it like if this is the only experience we have and we don't know, then why deny all things, right? Why not try some things as long as it's not bad for you, as long as it doesn't hurt other people,
Right,
as long
consent,
as it's
consent.
yes, right? So like why do we have to put these like constraints on ourselves or like have to stop arguing? Why not say hey and have those conversations? So thank you for that honesty.
Yeah.
Thank you, because that means a lot, and a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm out there like dating a bunch. I'm not.
Right,
I'm in a committed relationship. I just don't necessarily believe that humans are meant to be monogamous 100%. And I
love
think
it.
sometimes that idea that we're supposed to actually leads to a lot of relationship confusion and miscommunication.
Makes sense.
And,
Makes
and
sense.
really just controlling expectations.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge. So you've kind of alluded a little bit to what you do, and we talked a lot about the spirituality and things of that sort. Tell us what you do exactly.
How much time we got?
Your occupation.
This is like always the struggle. Like, okay,
what
do I
makes
do?
you money?
Yes, right. Okay, so I am a spiritual life coach. I am a nature connector, an intuitive medium, an energy worker, and an author. I am currently finishing up my 3rd book. It's interesting, though, because a few years ago, I would have said I was a nature connector, an environmental educator. My training, my education is in sociology, ecology, and I have a master's in marine biodiversity and conservation. So really into the ocean for a while, really into marine mammals. And in the last 6 years, I've really been on my own spiritual journey, which is I've been taking out into the world through my business. It started for me with a lot of eco-anxiety, which is just existential dread over the state of the world and the fact that humanity doesn't seem to care that we are literally about to run off a cliff when it comes to the way we treat the planet that is our home. That first happened for me when I was getting my master's degree. because it was all doom and gloom. Like, it was just like, this is how shitty. Is it okay if I curse?
Oh,
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Definitely. It's life and shit.
Okay. Yes. Basically, it's like, this is how shitty everything is. And if we scare you good enough, then you'll go out and make people care. Right. And I just remember being like, I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't do anything. Right. So that was my first like bout with anxiety. Got on some medication, started therapy, finished my master's degree, started working for an institution, Monterey Bay Aquarium, that does a lot, you know, to help. But I was still on anti-anxiety meds, sometimes had to be on sleep meds, just to kind of deal with this like...
That balance.
And just feeling like, okay, so when are we going to actually like make the changes?
Yeah, do something about this.
Right. So then I got pregnant with my first daughter. The first kid was like euphoria, like, oh, baby, like first time mama, everything's like fun. We're buying a new house, like taking some time off work. Second kid came, and within a few months, that anxiety just came back like real bad. And then I started having insomnia, and then the insomnia and the anxiety turned kind of into depression because I just couldn't shake this feeling of like dread, and my kids were so young and so cute, and I just like couldn't be present with them, and I wasn't sleeping, and that just makes everything worse. Everything worse, right? So went back to therapy, got back on anxiety meds at that point. Luckily for me, my therapist was also an energy worker on the side.
Nice. Very nice.
And so she was like, you are creatively blocked. You got to do something for yourself to get all of this energy, especially out of the third eye chakra. So she recommended this book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which is a book all about kind of getting yourself through writer's block or just creative blocks, period. It's very spiritual in the way it kind of presents life, right?
And
you guys are talking about blessings, lessons, right?
Yeah. And this is before you found out that you were a creator, or were you already?
No, I didn't know I was an artist. I didn't know I was an intuitive. Well, I kind of knew I was intuitive, but not really. Like I didn't know I was a medium. I didn't know I was an energy worker. I didn't know any of this. I just thought I was a stressed out, anxious mom.
Mom with 2 kids.
Yes. So I read that book. I started doing morning pages where you just kind of stream of flow journal in the morning. And then within a few weeks, I wanted to make art. I just felt this like compulsion almost. And I would go out in my garden and clip some succulents, find some cool rocks, some cool stones, some cool like vases in the house. And I would make little terrariums. And when I would make the terrariums, my mind would just be like, right? Like there was no spiraling anxiety of what I need to be doing next, or how I wish I wasn't thinking this, or I should be feeling this, or, you know, like just all the to-dos. It was just silence, and I found flow and I find presence. And so then I made a lot of art.
I love it. I love it.
And so I started gifting some to friends and to neighbors, and then they would ask me to make some for, you know, for them to bring to other friends. And that's kind of how my business Infinite Succulent began. And then one of my friends was like, you're a teacher. Why don't you do workshops? This was back in like 2016 when workshops were really popular.
Right.
So I started teaching workshops around San Diego, succulent crown pumpkins, wreaths, terrariums, arrangements. And I would always bring forth my story of anxiety and how creating with nature helped me find presence. And then through presence, it helped me find peace. So that's kind of how it all began. And then the more I worked with the plants, the more I actually became more sensitive to energy. And then I found some crystals at a thrift store, because I used to love going to thrift stores, because I'd find things and be like, I could plant a succulent in that. I could plant a succulent in anything, right? I found these crystals that were drilled with holes. So I was immediately like, oh, I could plant a succulent in that. Took it home, started planting it, and like my hands were like vibrating from it. And I was just like, what is happening here? So I started studying a little bit about crystal metaphysics. And one of my friends was like, oh, I know a crystal energy worker. Let me get you in touch with her. And so I learned from her, and then I got certified. But I also noticed that the plants themselves were just kind of providing me more and more lessons and more guidance in ways that felt like they were actually talking to me. Which they were, but I didn't realize it at the time. It kind of comes in like your own little epiphanies, which is how the plants do talk to us.
I love that. And I have a little plant journey that I got on too. Before I used to bring plants home and it was bad. And somewhere in that, like something kind of clicked, and I was bringing home these plants and I was naming them, and then I was like really like falling in love with them,
talking to them,
and and the kids would all like, they got on board as I named them Disney characters. And, and that's after they died a little. Like, guys, like, I have to stop naming them Disney characters. They're like, Cinderella died, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
That's adorable.
No, Chip and Dale.
Dale's the only ones that lasted.
Yeah, Chip and Dale is
Chip
still
and Dale
alive.
lasted.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
No one Chip and Dale. Come on now.
Chip and Dale started off as these little plants, and then we planted them outside, and now they're like trees.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I love it.
so
Love it.
My plant journey has been amazing, and I will have these when I had the time. It would be like, okay, this is the day I'm replanting all these pots. I bought new plants, and I'm putting these plants here. And then he's like, okay, so how far is this gonna go? Like, how many plants are we gonna
How
have
many
here?
bigger pots do we need?
Yeah.
And then the smaller pots start stacking up, and I'm like, okay, what
Well,
are we
that's
gonna
where
do
my
with these
new
pots?
new plants that come in
Propagating.
and then I learned about
Yeah.
succulents, and I'm like, oh shoot, all right, boom, there's one. It's growing. It's coming. It's coming. That's coming. That's
And then you learn you can grow baby succulents from leaves of succulents. And
Oh,
you got
yeah.
succulent leaves
Yeah.
all over your windowsills.
yes.
It's normal. It's normal.
Told you.
Yes. So we're gonna get into it because we got a story. I'm on Danielle about her plants all the time. And like, they're beautiful. Like, they're like, we went from fake plants to real plants.
Oh,
And
good
I'm happy.
job.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
there's
Thank
certain
you.
parts of the house that we just can't put plants
Yeah.
because it's not a
Too
light.
dark.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then we got
energy is off too.
but then there's parts of the house where like it's thriving. Like, the plant's taking over. And
Yeah.
I'm like, babe, the plant's sitting in the chair. I want to sit in the chair.
Cut the chair.
Only
Cut
one
the
of
plant.
us. Only one of us could be in the chair.
Cut the plant. Cut the plant back.
like,
I'm
the
like,
plant needs
they're
a
not
haircut.
meant to be planted. They're not. And then here's another story that's not even a good story. I had these cactuses, right? These little baby cactuses. It was in this little baby pot, right? This small cactus. I grew all the way up.
Still in the
and
little
then,
pot?
No, of course, I like replant, repot.
It moved on up like the
Repot.
Jeffersons.
Yeah. So now it's in a big pot like this, right? And it's like huge.
Wow.
And outside, and I'm like, okay, I'm telling him about it. Like, this plant's just gotten so big. So he tells the gardener, you cut back the cactus. Cut back a cactus?
You trim
First
it up.
off,
I'm thinking
how?
about the kids. I'm thinking about the kids.
How? How do you trim? You cut off its arm? Is that what you want to do? Cut its arm off?
It depends, because some of the cactuses, sometimes they put off almost their own little baby
Yep,
cactus. So
yep.
you can actually clip that and replant it and it'll root.
No, that's the purpose.
Yeah.
That's different.
But if it's what kind of cactus was it?
It was one of those furry kind of cactuses too. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was big, beautiful, and furry. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I got
They
worried
don't
about
really
the
have
kids.
branches as much as
Not at
trees
all.
do, right? So it's not as easy to cut back.
it's gonna cut its arm off.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So the gardener totally did not understand.
Oh no.
And I'm downstairs talking with my sister, I believe, on the phone, and I'm like, yeah. I look, and my plant is just destroyed.
Oh,
It's
no.
literally just the
Just a
bottom
nub.
nub.
Yeah.
I like immediately start panicking, like,
Oh.
what the hell? I call him, what the hell happened? No. My plant is gone.
Oh.
No, it got worse.
Yeah. Because then he tells him,
It got worse. Yeah. The plant wasn't just gone. It got worse. So the gardener, like, I tell him, like, yo, take care of everything. Like, make everything look nice.
Yeah.
We don't want nothing being over. And because we got, nieces and nephews running around the house all the time, kids. And he does that to the cactus. And then I say, bro, I didn't want you to do that. You got to, you have to fix it now. Like, we need something else there.
Glue it back on.
Yeah,
there's no fixing.
Like, we have to fix this. So what he does is he goes and he takes the whole thing out of the pot completely. And I was like, that's not what I meant. So I had to let him go.
Oh.
And the kids were so mad at him for letting him go, because they're like,
Yeah,
it's your
they was-
fault, Dad.
yeah, they
It
was
was
like-
your fault.
Oh, everyone's mad. Everyone's mad at Dad after this story.
Everybody's mad.
It's so true.
I'm like, first I try to
That's
keep
the
the house
bottom line.
clean.
Well,
He's like, I try not to get you poked.
Yeah.
if it makes you feel any better, plants don't look at death the same way we do.
Okay, that does make
Yeah.
me feel better.
They are like, okay, time to go on to the next life. Like, they're not afraid of death.
See?
They
That's-
honor it. They understand it. From what they've told me, they also remember more than we do their previous iterations. They know that death isn't like the end of life. They know that death is part of the life cycle, not in opposition to it.
Just like, I don't even like throwing my plants in the trash. Like after it, like if it dies, and it's like, I just want to throw it in the canyon.
Yeah.
Like not in the trash.
Give it back to earth.
Yeah.
Give it back to
the
earth.
trash feels like,
Oh, yeah,
so
that's-
Well, because
sorry.
it can't do what it's supposed to do when it's in the trash, right? Like organic material should go back into organic material to be composted and feed the soil. We need to feed the soil right now.
Exactly.
So
Makes sense.
So what you're doing is right on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about your occupation and your marital situations. What about your dreams? What do you dream of? What do you want to do? What are some of your dreams?
Honestly, these days my dreams feel like they're more for the collective than they are for myself, because it's just a friggin' nightmare out there right now. So I think we need to dream better. So I dream of peace.
I love it.
I honestly, my husband's a Trekkie.
I like Trek.
So
Old school.
so he's gotten me a little bit more into
Love
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
And I grew up as like a Star Wars fan. So I was like, Star Trek, I like Star Wars. But now I have a really big appreciation for Star Trek because of the future they envision, which is this future where humans are of Earth. And like, there's no more money, there's no more, I wouldn't say there's no more religion, but like there's culture, but there's not these divisions that we currently have that are creating this us versus them mentality, which is such an illusion. So I dream of that. I dream of a future where we are all for one, for Earth.
I love it.
I feel like we should just create our own compound right now. Like,
Let's
just do
doing
it.
this compound.
I mean, I literally believe that 99% of human problems will be solved if we could just remember we're all of Earth
I love
and
it.
for Earth.
1,000%.
You know, and that leads me to my another question that I have actually. Like, how do we teach children now to honor and respect the environment and the earth?
That's a
Like,
good question.
or like to appreciate it. You know what I
think
mean?
First and foremost, you got to let them be in it. You got to let them make that connection, that heartfelt connection, as opposed to we're going on a hike and we're going to look for these things. Like, just giving them time to be in nature, exploring on their own and making these relationships. I mean, I think about when I was a little kid and we had this little crabapple tree in our front yard, and literally that tree was my best friend for the first 3 years of my life.
Now, you're saying it sounds like we need to make them go outside, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what we used to do. Right?
Yeah,
We used to
yeah,
go
yeah.
outside. As a
And
kid
connect,
growing up,
yeah.
we were all outside. We were outside most of the day.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the connect, and not only just being outside, but like even growing up for me, like we played football in the park, in the grass.
I played in the dirt. Like I ate the dirt. I played in the dirt.
I made worm houses in the dirt.
I
We
made
climbed
mud
trees.
pies.
We made mud pies. We climbed trees.
Yep.
Like trees were, I know especially for me back in those days when we climbed trees, it was a hiding place. It was like
Yep.
it was
Yeah.
like this was my way
Yeah.
to get away.
That's right.
I had this tree. So we were right next to a little cul-de-sac, and in the middle of the cul-de-sac was this evergreen tree. And every time I ran away from home, I went into that tree because you could go under the branches, and it had a little tent in there. And I'd be like, "This is where I live now."
1,000%. That's where the hideouts were.
Yep.
Like, in the
I had so many
bushes.
hideouts as a kid.
Yeah, it's like we wasn't afraid to go in.
Yeah.
In like even our canyon, like we have a canyon in our backyard.
Yeah.
And I tell the kids all the time, like, y'all should go down there and figure out
Yeah,
what's
for
down there.
real,
Yeah.
for
They look at me
real.
like I'm crazy. They're like,
They're like, "It's coyotes
yeah, that's exactly. Coyotes, cactuses.
and the rattlesnakes."
They're like, no, we're not doing that. But that's a good point, because we made a good point of being out in nature, like I was saying, like all the time.
Yeah.
Like we wanted to be connected. We wanted the kids to be out there. But to what you said, it was mostly like, all right, let's go on a hike. Let's look for these things. Let's be explorers. And it wasn't like we didn't do the let's just chill and take it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like now I would be like, okay, you all, let's take off our shoes. Let's
Yep.
actually put our feet into the sand. Let's
Yeah.
take a deep breath. What do you feel? Right. Like I
Yeah.
would make them kind of experience it a lot more.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't do so bad getting them out there and
Oh, no,
making
no,
them be in there.
1,000%, yeah.
And they didn't complain too much. And I used to like to do this hike where they could tell me whatever they wanted. And it was like, and there's no judgment during this hike at all. And they loved it.
I love that walk and
it.
talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think also along with that is really starting to teach the kids about interconnectivity. And I think that works for our relationship with the environment.
I
with
apologize,
Earth.
you guys. I got to use the restroom.
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was sitting here like, oh.
MT, we're gonna take a pause commercial break.
Body, you gotta listen to the body.
Yeah.
Tell my kids that all the time.
Oh, that's fine. No, but that's pretty dope. So how are the kids now? And both girls?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are they connected? And like, do they experience anything with you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not as open spiritually to do the things I do in nature, but I'm always doing it in their
They're right there with
like
you.
so they can see me,
Yeah.
so that they know the invitation's always there. My eldest is more naturally inclined. Like she loves to go out in the garden and see how things are growing and pick things, and she likes to look for different bugs. And you can tell that when she's emotionally just feeling heightened, she'll go outside and just kind of walk around the yard, and you can
Nice.
see how it
Yeah.
settles her. My younger, she's not developed that relationship yet. And she's my one who's a little bit like freaked out by bugs and spiders. And meanwhile, I'm like, let's take this spider in and make him a home and have him be our pet. And she's like,
nah. That's funny because the older girls, they're just like that, but opposite. So
Yeah.
the oldest can't stand bugs,
Yeah.
don't like being outside. But she's like, we always call her, she's the girly girl.
yeah,
Don't want to get dirty.
yeah.
And then the second, when she was young, she would bring rocks home.
Yep.
She was always in the dirt.
Yep.
And even today, she's 24 years old now, and she still has those tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's a witchy thing.
Yeah.
We collect rocks and feathers and like that stick, that one, not that one, that one,
That kid
right?
is-
I still do that. I'm 44.
I mean, pants full of rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Oh yeah, I still do that.
So, and, you know, to the point where I was actually like, so we would go down to the beach, and then I'll be like, because I grew up on the beach, living in
Yeah.
New York.
Really? Which
Yeah,
beach?
It was I'm from Queens.
Okay.
So in Far Rockaway, we were right on the beach. I
Yeah.
mean, every day I was on
Yeah.
the beach. We didn't have forest, like we didn't have the trees.
No.
It was the beach.
Yeah.
It was the beach, and then the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I would say, let's go down get to the beach and get some seashells. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
You know, that was my thing, my connection with them. But then when we went into the woods, like when we started camping, that was
yeah.
dope. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is a different kind of
And
tranquility.
what's super fun about camping is that when you're just chilling, you know, and the kids have nothing to do, right? Like you see how the imagination takes over, and they're like playing with pine cones
Yep.
and just, you know, playing with bark and making fairy houses. And
Yeah,
like there's no such thing as boredom when we're camping.
Yeah,
It's
no.
great.
And we had to, of course, we had to take phones away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just our kids. We'll bring our nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah, you gotta take the
4
phones
of them?
away.
Yeah, so we have 8 kids with us camping.
Wow. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Man, that's impressive.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was because it was one of those things where it's like, all right, we're out here. It's just us.
Well,
What you gonna do?
Yeah, and for a while we'd invite like other friends and other families
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And one year it was just us, and the kids were like, "It's really nice, just us."
Yeah.
We're like, "Really, you guys?" Like we thought you guys would be bored. And they're like, "No, we just want you guys." I was
Aw.
like, that was so sweet.
Yeah, they like
Danielle,
the
I should
party.
have realized you were a Cancer now that I see your earrings.
Ah,
I'm like, those
yeah.
are total cancers. That's you got the Cancer side right there.
When's your birthday?
July 17th.
Oh shit!
Boom, 16.
Oh my God, my brother's the 18th.
Really? My daughter's the 11th. My son is the first. Like second. I always put him on the first. The
So you guys
second.
got a lot of cancers in your family.
We do.
But that's part of the reason you love baths, you know.
Oh
You're
yeah.
your water baby.
Yep.
And a moon child.
Oh my God, I love that so much. So I work with the moons.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
Those, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you work with moon because of how intuitively it moves, right?
Well, Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, Taurus Moon. I'm literally all moon.
Yep.
Like I'm
That's-
all moon.
So I have a tattoo on my back, so I always call myself a moon child.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, moon child. And you know what's super interesting now that I'm a medium, when I'm doing moon circles and stuff, I call them the moon maidens, but there are these 4 beings that sometimes come down into the circle or sometimes in my energy sessions. And I never get to see their face. They're always shrouded. They're super tall, and they take up positions in the room of north, south, east, and west. and they literally create like an energy field in the room that typically we can feel. Like we'll be there and we'll be like, whoa, did you just feel that? That's just like a wave of energy that comes in. They've told me that they live in the moon, that there's like a whole, type of beings that live in the moon, and they're responsible for helping send the wave vibrations from the moon to the earth, which is, what causes the push and pull of the tides. But that's their job, which is fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So we got to.
So we're moon maidens.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
That's a trip.
Yes, that is.
Before we forget where we were.
Interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Because MT gonna be, Trev gonna be like, how do I edit this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can go all over the place.
Yeah, we can. This
All
is
over.
true.
All right, so you asked about getting kids connected.
Yeah.
And she was talking about interconnected.
Yeah, so getting them outside, but then also really talking to them about interconnection. I think one of the things I'm so obsessed with right now, talking about the forests and the trees, is the mycelium network, which is the root networks of the forests and root networks of plants, and how the plants actually connect and communicate and support each other through a symbiotic relationship with fungi and bacteria within the roots. And it basically creates a web or a network of community. And what's great about this is we used to think with forest ecology that the trees were in competition with each other, right? Like the tallest ones are going to take away the light from the youngest ones. But with some of the research that's come out recently, especially by this one woman who's a forest ecologist out of Canada, Susan Simard, she did a lot of studies on the mycelium network and discovered that forests are communities and they're collaborative and they're supporting each other. And the trees send extra nutrients, extra water, extra carbon from themselves to other trees, and not even just their own type of trees, other types of trees and other plants, the ferns that are in there. And it's a collaborative community. So I think the more we can talk about the interconnection of all life, the better our future is going to be.
1,000%. That's a good point that you say that, because one of our businesses is coffee, and one of this, in my studies is how, plantations and just growing coffee relies on having other trees.
Yes.
And to your point,
The food forests.
Yeah, if it doesn't have these other taller trees to create shades when it needed, then the coffee plant can't survive the way it's supposed to.
Right.
And if you think about going back to your point about the whole world, like naturally, if the plants are doing it, why are we not doing it? It's not a us versus them thing.
Right.
It's like, you're tall, you're big because you have the components that I need to survive. I have components that this needs to survive. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
But everything is complicated with us. Yeah.
Complicated.
Even our goddamn relationship status. It's complicated.
Yeah. But even going on that, I think we can learn from the trees and the forest communities about interconnectivity and collaboration. But I think it's also important for us to note as humans that we're meant to work with these systems. Thinking about even here in the Americas, when the colonists came over, they're like, look at all this land of plenty, right? Not realizing the thousands of years of tending to the land that the indigenous people did to create these literal food forests.
Yeah. It didn't just happen.
It didn't just happen. This was cultivated.
Right.
But it was cultivated in a way that took into account the ecosystem and the community and how these things support each other, as opposed to what we're doing now with, mega agriculture, which is monocultures, which are terrible for the environment. Biodiversity is nature's insurance policy. And monocultures are stripping biodiversity off our planet.
That's 1,000%. It's funny because I used to be an oceanographer when I was in the Navy.
Oh yeah, I
and
love that.
It kicks me every time that I'm like, man, how come I didn't go further in that? But being a young kid from New York City, you don't know what's I didn't know what was going to be the thing, right? I was like, and now all of a sudden, I think you're like the second or third person I ran into that. No, actually, so it was the meteorology. Because I did meteorology and oceanography. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
You got to be good with math then, huh? That's
numbers is my thing.
Yeah, good. Yeah, there's a lot of numbers in that.
Love science.
Yeah, you got a good memory too.
Good job.
Oh, damn, I should go back to school.
You really should. No.
It's never too late.
Yeah. I mean,
No, but
what are you
I
gonna
like
do?
the entrepreneur hustle.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I
Please
know.
don't.
And the freedom.
Hustle,
Making your own time frame.
Here we go.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
Oh, Lord.
another idea.
Raquel, what are some beginning and some friendly ways to introduce someone to mediumship?
Ooh.
Or even energy work, right?
Okay.
And before you do that too, if you could kind of specify the difference between being a spiritual life coach, like you said, it's not religion, right? And kind of incorporate all of that when people are asking those kind of questions.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of spiritual life coach, yeah, it's not religion, but it's the recognition that there is something greater than what we can see or know with our logical mind. My entire life have been extremely spiritual. I believe in something bigger. I feel it, and I especially feel it in nature and in the way that nature is in symbiosis with each other. Like that to me is God in so many ways. And what I love about spirituality, it's the recognition of the divinity in all things, which leads into energy work and magic as well. When I got the book deal for Everyday Plant Magic, I had to really be like, well, what does magic actually mean to me? You know, what does that word actually mean? We kind of throw it around. So for me, I define magic as the understanding that everything is actually energy. That's like magic as a noun. And then magic as a verb is knowing that, very intentionally manipulating, moving, changing that energy to have more desired results. That's the act of making magic. So energy work is really about learning to transform energies, to move energies, and also to open to receive energies and open to release energies as well. So I think when you're just getting started out, before we even dive into mediumship, because I think you got to understand energy first. If you try to dive into mediumship without that, it can lead to a lot of confusion and also some leaking of your own energy, I believe. So when we understand energy and we understand that basically this entire world can be a battery for us when it comes to energy, and we understand our own energy systems, which I understand as the chakra systems and the auric system. I know a lot of people, especially in Chinese medicine, will go more in depth with the meridians. I focus more on the 7 main chakras and the auric field. So if we understand that, then we have a better sense of, first of all, our emotions and our physical sensations, what it might mean, and how we can help ourselves with that knowledge. For me, nature is the source of most of what I call prana or life force energy. And when I mean nature, yes, I mean earth, but I also mean the moon and the stars and the sun and the universe and the way that we are literally dancing our way through space right now. So that's kind of where it starts, is understanding that everything is energy. And with that knowledge, we have a lot more power than we've been led to believe. From there, when it comes to mediumship, I think the first way that people can understand that we already are having connections with our loved ones who've crossed over is when they randomly just pop into your head. That's them showing up for you. When you're just going about doing life and all of a sudden you think of them and you can almost feel them next to you or smell them. Or sense what they felt like when they touched you. That's a visitation. They are literally coming to be with you in that moment. And when people can understand that and they're like, wait, I'm already doing this, then they start trusting, and that trust leads to further invitation for that relationship and that connection.
So it's not as complicated as we make it seem.
Oh my gosh, not at all.
And it's not as scary as
Not at all.
as we make it seem.
Not at all. Now listen, so as a spiritual life coach and an energy worker and an intuitive medium, the way I work with clients is a little bit different. So if I'm coaching someone, my hope and my goal is to help that person become the medium and the intuitive in their own life. My personal belief is every single one of us has the gifts and skills to do this. It's just like another muscle we have to figure out how to exercise. And unfortunately, many of us had this connection when we were kids, and it kind of got conditioned out of us. So it's kind of like a relearning.
I like to say like our mirrors got cloudy,
Yeah.
like kind of cloudy,
Cloudy.
right?
Foggy.
Like foggy or
Yeah.
dirty, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just all that doubt got
Yeah.
put on there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, sometimes, well, if we can allow ourselves to, then we can kind of do this spiritual cleaning and
Yeah.
allow those gifts to come out.
Definitely. And that being said, I have worked with a lot of people who remember being a kid and waking up and seeing someone sitting on their bed. Now, that is frightening, you know, to like for a child, for anyone to wake up and like there's someone sitting on your bed, that could be frightening. So I understand how when you're young and you have this gift that you don't know how to use yet, it might be perceived as frightening if you don't know how to work with it. So some of my clients were kind of working through that fear to get to that place of the love and the trust. In my personal experience, I have never, ever connected with a spirit that doesn't have the best interest of the person in mind. Not ever. But that's also the way I connect.
Do you find it like, is there an age difference? Is there a certain category of human beings that are coming to you and saying, hey, I'm really feeling this way, or I want to get in tune? Is there younger? Is there older? Is there some kind of experience that you've seen?
Honestly, I feel really lucky. I work with lots of age ranges, from like 20s all the way up. Some of my clients are in their 60s, maybe even early 70s. I honestly think more and more people's gifts are coming online right now. I think more and more people are feeling their sensitivities to energy, are having dreams or just interesting things happening that makes them more curious about life. And so
That's
yeah.
and that's pretty dope that you say 20s, because I always think about when I was in my 20s and what I thought about. It wasn't about energy work. It wasn't about, you know, trying to get in. Like it wasn't none of that. And now where I am today, I'm like, why not? You know, so and going back to the kids thing, like, how does that exposure, like how do we expose our, you know, not just kids, but just people in period.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are getting exposed because I talk about it.
Yeah, because they see it.
Yeah,
they see it.
And I talk about how I talk to dead people and how loving they are, and how death is not the end of something; it's the beginning of something else, and how it's hard for those of us who are left behind because we miss them, but that they still love us. And my kids are kind of like, okay, whatever, Mom.
Yeah, and it goes back to my question of how do you like explain like how like beginner friendly mediumship, right? Because like a lot of times people hear that and they're like, oh God, she sees dead people, I'm out. You know what I mean? Or they're afraid you're gonna see something in them. You know what I mean? That's not right. Or you know, it's like, I don't want you to see something, you know. But it's like, listen, you don't have to guard yourself or protect yourself around me. Like I'm okay, but what is your experience?
I have really good boundaries as a medium. Like I'm never the person who's like walking through the grocery store and like seeing people's dead people. No, I just want to get my groceries and get out. You know, like I do not want to be talking to dead people at the grocery store. So, as a medium or as an intuitive, with all of this kind of work, we have the greatest power. And I think that's the most important thing when you're starting this kind of work. Like that's the premise you have to start with. I'm in charge of this connection. I get to say when it starts, and I get to say when it stops, and I get to say you can come and you can go. Like that's where we have to start. And to me, that's also very much being grounded and connected to earth. So before I begin any session, I ground, I connect with earth energy. I tether myself to the love and support of earth so that I'm always in reality, even as I'm reaching up to other dimensions, reaching out or opening to receive if they want to come this way too. So that's where I start. Now, when it comes to mediumship, and with a lot of stuff with my kids in particular, I don't force them to do what I'm doing. I just let them see what I'm doing and just let that be an invitation. So it's almost like I'm just going to live my life. And if you're interested, come and chat with me about it, as opposed to like trying to force them, because they're getting to that age too that if I force them, they're going to push back against it.
Yeah. And you got about 3 years before they start.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it's important and if anyone is before massive people or even having one-on-one energy exchange with someone, for them to do a protective, like grounding to themselves. I mean, even if you're going to go speak or teaching yoga, I'm a yoga teacher. So like even before I go out to teach my classes, but when I taught, I would have to put a protective bubble around myself because people pull.
Yes.
And you know, you never know when there's people that see your energy and they don't purposely try to take it for themselves, but they want it, you know,
So
and they
interesting.
take it. So
Yeah, and I think that's why I've become so good at pulling my energy from nature and not other people. Are you guys familiar with human design at all? Have you heard of that? Oh my God, Danielle, you would love human design.
Huh.
So it's kind of like astrology mixed with like Enneagram.
Okay.
It's,
Really?
Yeah.
I'm really
but
liking it.
it's very associated with astrology in particular. But according to human design, there's like 5 different energy types of people. And some of us are people who generate our own energy, like manifestors and generators and manifesting generators. I'm considered a projector, which means we don't actually generate our own energy. We have to get energy from other beings. And a lot of times they talk about projectors kind of pulling energy from other people. And I realized, like, I don't do that. I pull energy from nature. And that's what I've always done. And in some ways, that's what I teach other people to do, is to learn to let nature be your battery pack so that we're not pulling from
human beings. Yeah,
the complexity of other human beings.
That's 1,000%.
Yes, it's true.
That's
'Cause I know
1,000%.
I'm a self generator, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so I know this, and I was actually just talking with a friend, and she was saying, and she not to say like who does more or whatever, but I know I work my ass off, right? And she was talking about not even half of the things that I do. And she's like, well, when the body says stop, then the body stops. I'm not trying to pass out somewhere. And I thought to myself, why the hell haven't I passed out somewhere? I go on half food. I work 10, 12 hours a day, get off and still work 5 more. You know what I mean? And yet I'm still going and I'm still motivating and still, and I, like, that's it right there.
Can you feel where that energy comes from inside of you?
Oh gosh, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to go in to take a bath. Like when I get in the bathtub, I literally can feel it all coming back to me.
Wow.
I get my energy from the water.
Yeah.
But yes, it comes directly from my right here.
Yeah, so
right
your
there.
solar plexus.
Definitely right from my solar plexus.
Oh, wow. So another way you can work on really filling yourself up, sunlight. Pull that sunlight
I
right
love
into the solar
sun,
plexus.
and it's so funny because my stepdad, who's a white man, he would always, when I was a kid, I'd be outside like basking in the sun. I love the sun. He'd be like, "Get your ass out the sun. You don't need to be in the sun." No, like I'm not trying to get a tan or anything. It's just something about the sun that's just so fulfilling. So I love to bask in the sun.
Yeah, there's one of the first energy practices I share in Everyday Plant Magic is called Activating Your Magic. And I think give that one a look and give that one a try.
Definitely. I'm
It's
definitely going to buy your book.
Yeah, it's all about like opening from the crown to receive, opening from the root to receive, breathing that into the body, and then intentionally flooding that energy into the solar plexus. And you feel all tingly, all bubbly.
Oh, yes.
And I actually consider that feeling to be the feeling of self-love, because the solar plexus is our center of personal power, digestion, how we kind of process the world, it's motivation, but it's also the center of self-love.
Yep.
People often think it's the heart. Heart is unconditional love. Solar plexus is self-love. And often people try to get to self-love like it's a thought, but it's not a thought, it's a feeling. So let's get the feeling first, and then we can speak the words of affirmation and believe them. I remember I tried to look in the mirror. I'm magnificent. And like, meanwhile, my ego's like, you're a fucking liar. That's what you are, you know? So if I can get that feeling in the solar plexus, that just bubbly, and I'm smiling and I feel lit up. I feel magnificent. I can say, I'm magnificent. I'm a shining beam of light. And it feels true. It is true in that moment. And then my self-love grows.
I love it.
That's dope.
I love it.
And I love what you said about affirmations too, and grounding. So as we wrap up,
Yeah, because we can talk for hours.
I know, I can talk to you guys forever.
Yeah. We don't want to keep y'all too long, but we can go on, and we'll let you guys know where you can find Raquel, so you guys could talk more with her.
Just a quick thing on grounding, because like we know about grounding. We do it all the time. Like we walk outside and we'll put our feet in our front grass, and we do the things. How can people, like, because that is a very key thing in all things. If you're going to a business meeting, if you have issues with your family, stress, whatever the key thing, whatever it is, how can people do grounding exercises from home?
Yeah. Well, I'm grounding right now. Boots on, shoes, carpets, 3rd floor up where we are right now, right? So I think when we're looking at grounding from a very physical perspective, we're talking about like the actual hurts or, the the electromagnetic
Energy
energy of the earth,
Yeah.
and you have to have your bare feet on. And yes, having your bare feet on earth, fantastic, and you will physically feel that. From an energetic perspective, from the energy medicine perspective, all grounding means is opening to receive energy from earth.
I love it.
And we live on earth, which means we can open to receive energy from earth anytime we want, because energy has no limits.
I love it. I feel like you're preaching.
Yeah.
Go
so
ahead.
like
Go
right
ahead.
now, my roots
Keep
are
on.
down. My energetic roots are down in the soil below this building. And I feel myself pulling up from my right leg as I'm talking to you all. And I do this purposefully. Like whenever I'm going to be doing any kind of public speaking, I am grounding the shit out of myself first, right?
Smart.
Because I want, first of all, I consider myself a messenger of earth. So I want her to speak through me. So I want to always make that connection.
Okay. I
And
like
then
that.
second of all, I want to be here now with you guys.
Present, yes.
And grounding is about presence. So from an energy perspective, it's really just imagining. And I use the word imagining because it's very powerful for energy medicine. Imagining your roots from your feet or from your sit bone moving down into earth. And you can have fun with it. Like I like to imagine them sometimes finding a little like crystal cave, and maybe it's selenite one day, or maybe it's like amethyst one day, pulling it up. Or sometimes I'm in a little fox den, or sometimes I'm just there and all the other roots come and meet me. And I just let it be fun and whatever happens. And then I just start breathing that energy up into my body. Breathe the energy up in your inhale. And here's key. When you exhale, as you exhale, let that energy settle in your body. I find most people do this thing when they pull earth energy up and then they shoot it out their crown when they exhale to like make a connection up, but they're not taking that earth energy into their body. They're just like shooting it right up their head. So I always tell people, don't do that. We'll open to receive from the crown momentarily, but first let's let this earth energy settle. So in the exhale, you kind of let it almost like silt in the water. Like exhale, just let it settle in your body. Because I find that most people naturally inhale it in and then exhale it and let it all go. But just intention in your body. And imagination is so important for this, because if you're imagining it, you're doing it.
I love it.
When it comes to energy work, if you can imagine yourself doing it and taking these deep breaths, you are doing it.
Yes, that's a meditation I actually teach. It's just like that's a grounding meditation,
Yes.
and it's true. In the first inhale, we bring it in, but we don't let it go out. We actually take it and go deeper in. So
Good
it's like
job.
take that breath and allow yourself to go deeper into the earth and connect to those roots
Yes.
even more.
Yes. And
so
sometimes,
thank you. I'm glad.
Sometimes it does help for us to actually exhale and release stagnant energy into earth before we can really pull up more. And you can feel that the more you do it, like when you're like trying to pull it in, you're like, it doesn't feel like it's coming in, and you can be like, okay, I need to let some stuff go first. So I always tell people that you can let your sorrow, let your stagnation, like let it go into earth. She wants it. It's a gift to her. She's queen at composting. Like that's what she does. She takes shit and turns it into soil and gold, you know? So I'm always big on giving back to earth. That can be our breath, that can be composting, and it can also be just standing outside, taking some nice deep breaths and letting your pain, letting your confusion, just breathing that out into earth too. That can be a gift to earth also.
Let that shit go.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
Let that shit go.
Boom.
Final thought.
Yep. That's it.
All right. Well, before I drop my final thought, Raquel, all of the platforms. Where can people find you? Websites, handles. Please drop it all.
Yes.
Your book, please.
Yeah,
book, yeah.
Which we have right here on the table. If
and
you
what's
guys can
next?
see that.
Thank you. Okay, so you can find pretty much everything about me on my website, infinitesucculent.com. You can find signed copies of my books on my website, but you can also find my books on like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. I'm most active on Instagram, where you can find me at Infinite Succulent. You can also find me on TikTok at Infinite Succulent. I think I'm on Facebook, but I honestly don't go there anymore, guys. Like it's not a place I want to be, so I don't even go there. In terms of what have I got coming up, so I have another book that's coming out in April, and it's called Self-Care for Eco-Anxiety.
Okay.
52 weekly practices for powerful personal change through the power of nature.
I like that.
So it's basically nature-based wellness practices to deal with the existential dread that is climate change and environmental destruction. So that's coming out in April. I also do one-on-one coaching for energy work, for intuitive development. I do spirit sessions, which are basically mediumship, and intuitive sessions. I do energy work sessions, which is a combination of Reiki and crystal healing. And sometimes we bring some plants in as well and use the plants in the healing. Okay. And I also teach a group coaching program called Intuitive Magic, which is all about cultivating your intuition. And I usually have about 10 people for that. I'm currently running my second cohort, and I'll be doing another probably early in 2024. So, and I'm also doing like a rebrand. I'm going to be changing my business name come the new year.
That's exciting.
And I'm thinking about starting a podcast.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll have to do
wanna be
some.
guests.
Yeah. So I'll do some back and forth for sure. So that's
Yes.
kind of where you can find me. That's what I've got going on right now. And please come and chat with me over on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active. I do live reads on Instagram as well. Typically my live reads are with the moons. Oh, that's another place you can find this on my website. I share about the energies of every new moon and full moon. So if you like working with the moon energy, come onto my blog. You can sign up there. You'll get a newsletter, and you go over to the blog and get journal prompts and things like that. So
love it.
That's
Yeah.
super dope.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the conversation. You know, we talked about humanity, we talked about the planet, and honestly, like, we just got to build habits, you know, that will basically make a brighter future for us. And it's and to your point, it's doable.
I believe so. My heart knows it so. And I think that's also why I feel a lot of grief. And I think why a lot of us feel a lot of grief right now, because we know it's better than what it is.
Yeah, 1,000%.
But I think it's really important for us to know that grief is an expression of love. So if you need to grieve, please grieve, because that's love in action. And the world needs our love. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. So.
That sounds like a dope final thought right there. That was dope. The world definitely needs love. Thank you, Raquel. Thank you. This is Life and Shit.
Life and Shit.
I love you, girl. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.